All right, let me just get this up and going. Hold on one second. All right, live video is starting. All right, here we are. All right, so we have some news that I was tagged in overnight about a tiger being shot at Naples Zoo. Naples Zoo's in Florida. And I was tagged with, you know, why didn't they sedate it? Why did it have to die? Why did it have to shoot it? All right, so we're gonna discuss some of that. All right, again, Kim's critter classes. Oh, okay, so it automatically does the Facebook reverse here. All right. So I'm Kim's critter classes. I teach classes online throughout school through Facebook Live. I also do in-person classes, and I'm a former zookeeper. So I've worked in both AZA, which is American Association of Zoos and Aquariums. That's the highest level of zoos. Naples Zoo is AZA accredited. We'll go into that. And I've worked at private facility also. You know, so I have a little bit of both kinds of experience, accredited and non-accredited. So I've seen some stuff. And I guess we can go into, all right, I don't even know what that means. I'm getting weird messages. Okay. I guess we can go into the differences between accreditations and Tiger King type stuff. So anyway, so Naples Zoo, it's a zoo in Florida, and I guess what happened overnight is that they have a contract crew to come in to clean the bathrooms, to clean the gift shop, and other areas of the zoo that are not, you know, they're not supposed to be. All right, I have no idea what this is asking me. That are not supposed to be, you know, the people aren't supposed to have access to. It's a 43-acre zoo. I looked it up. And, I mean, I guess the most obvious thing is, why was the guy there? You know, why was he, how did he have access? So I think as far as having access, which means there wasn't an escort, there wasn't security. Normally, if you're going to have any kind of outside crew, yeah, you'd probably want to have security there, which I'm sure the zoo does have security, but this might be an ongoing contract that they've never had issues before, that the people have to sign that they're not going to have access to these areas of the zoo that they shouldn't have access to. So basically this guy wandered off, in my opinion. He wandered off and wanted to pet the tiger, and did so with a bad result. So, okay, so, you know, even if you have security can't be everywhere in the zoo, depending on how many people. Are you going to watch every single individual person to make sure that they're doing their job? You know, so that's the other issue. And then, all right, so you have the tiger, right, in its enclosure. How did the guy gain access to it? Depending on the facility, depending on the amount of money they have, depending on how many tigers they have, depending on the housing, you're usually going to have the tiger in an overnight area, not on exhibit, per se. It's going to be in its nighttime enclosure, which is usually an inside type of thing. So the guy might have had gained access from the inside of a building and stuck his hand through, because usually on the inside you're going to have keepers, you're going to have ways to feed the animal, there's going to be different doorways and stuff depending on how the animal is trained, to stick its paw through to accept shots, or just to have maybe a side opening for its tail to do blood draws for the tail and stuff. So the inside looks a lot different than the outside from what people see. So the inside might have had more access if the guy got into the building, depending on how that zoo is set up. I'm not familiar with it. I'm just taking a guess. So either way, he gained access, tried petting it, feeding it, whatever he did, and got, from my understanding, from what I've read, he got pulled into the enclosure, which to me kind of means he got dragged underneath it somehow, or yeah, again, he might have had access to some kind of doorway. Hold on. What? Okay. All right. So, so the guy gets pulled into the enclosure. He's probably screaming. The tiger is excited. Why didn't they sedate the animal? So obviously someone was there to call 911, either security or another person on staff. This is minutes that are going by already, okay? Why wasn't a keeper there on site? Again, you're going to have a night keeper. It's very rare to have a night keeper. You only really have a night keeper if you know an animal's going to go into labor overnight. You're not really going to have a vet staying overnight, again, unless you know that there's an animal that's going to be going into labor, or there's some other kind of medical issue going on that you will have staff overnight. If there's like a hurricane or something going on, you know, yeah, then. But a regular day, you're not really going to have overnight staff unless there's some kind of weird feeding schedule, okay? So as far as having a vet on staff, that's not going to happen. As far as having a keeper on staff, that's not really going to happen. Say you did. Say you did have a keeper on staff, and say you did have a vet on staff. Again, you have a guy screaming in the cage with a tiger. Okay, it's a Malayan tiger, so they're not the biggest tigers. I think they're maybe 250 pounds. I don't know, 300 pounds. So they're not the biggest tiger, but it's a tiger. It's ripping your arm off. Again, excited. There's a lot going on. People screaming, probably. I'm sure the guy's probably yelling. The tiger is, you know, panicked, doesn't know what's going on, just knows that there's this guy in its enclosure, and he is, you know, a threat. So, why didn't they sedate it? Again, you have a tiger, depending on its training, it might know what the vet looks like. In my experience, tigers, any animal, they're kind of afraid of the vet because they kind of know what's going to happen, that it's going to get a shot. There's usually a negative experience with vets. Again, this is the keeper's job to try to, I guess, make it more of a positive experience. So this is the operant training thing. What kind of training this tiger had, I do not know. So again, a very excited position to be in. Even if you had a keeper, the keeper's going to blow their whistle, whatever, try to get the animal to recall, try to get the animal to go back into its nighttime enclosure or a secondary so that the animal will go back there, put the door down, you know. So I'm not sure. There has to be a secondary. There has to be. So for whatever reason, this animal either wasn't there or the guy had access to it, is kind of the way I'm taking it. So anyway, so again, you have to hope that the animal responds. All right. Again, there's minutes going by. The guy's arm is in the tiger's mouth. You know, the animal has to, you know, listen to the keeper, you know, recall whatever that is, whatever, if it's a whistle or its name or whatever. Okay. Say that doesn't work. Again, you have minutes going by. You pepper spray the animal. You got to get pretty close to pepper spray in the eyes. Okay. That doesn't always work, and it probably wouldn't have worked in this situation. All right. So again, the guy, from what I understood, is in the enclosure. So that doesn't mean the tiger is in front of the enclosure. It could be in other areas of the enclosure. You're not going to walk in there and try to pepper spray the animal. Okay. So, you know, so that's probably not an option. Why didn't, and I think that the deputy called, I think he did try to scare the tiger. He kicked the door or something like that, or kicked the enclosure. That didn't work. So scare tactics, drop something, make a loud noise, scream, yell, whatever. I'm sure there was already a lot of yelling going on. And even so, if the animal did retract, did let go of the guy, the tiger is still in that enclosure. There's nothing, it's not in its secondary, it's still not safe to go in there with the tiger to retrieve the guy, okay? Why didn't they sedate it? Again, it's not like in the movies. You don't get a shot and you're out, okay? It does not work like that. Again, if you're the keeper or if you're the tech and you're trying to sedate a tiger, you usually have a jab pole. Jab pole, you got to get pretty close. Have you ever seen Tiger King? Don't watch it. If you've ever seen it, you see the guy jabbing it in a closed trailer. And he was pretty good at it because you gotta get it in the, a certain area. Again, there's struggle going on. You got to be on the outside of the cage, pretty close to it to do the jab pull. And you got to load it if it's not already loaded, which it probably isn't. Okay. And then you have a gun sedation. Okay. Again, it doesn't happen. It's not like this. It's not instantaneous. Okay. So even if you had a successful sedation, the animal was targeted and the animal did get the shot, it takes like, I don't know, 15 minutes. I've never seen an animal go down quicker than that, regardless of what type of animal, whether it be hoofstock, a large animal. I've never seen anything go down quicker than 15 minutes. And with all the excitement going on, the adrenaline, chances are the sedation probably wouldn't have worked anyway. You probably would have needed a second dose or a higher dose or something like that, okay? And anytime, especially big cats, you put them under sedation, they don't always wake up. So it's not always a good thing to put them under sedation. Again, in this case. So yeah, you're going to have, God knows how many minutes we're going by with the guy in the cage. And then you're going to wait another 15 plus minutes for the sedation to work. That's not going to happen. All right, so the deputy acted in the proper way. He shot the animal. Okay. AZ zoos, I think it might be protocol. I'm a little out of practice. I couldn't find information, but it could. I think it's AZ protocol now, depending on what kind of hot or red animals that you have. These are the animals that can kill you, and ones that you don't want to get out. Your big cats. You don't want an elephant out. You don't want gorillas out. Wolves, carnivores, basically, you don't want them to escape. You don't want people to go in there. But it does happen. Escapes do happen. People fall into cages. Animals do figure out how to get out. Nothing's foolproof. So, there's shot teams. And this is actually in a job description for some zoo jobs that if called upon, you will have to be on the shot team, and if there's no way to recall the animal, you got to shoot it. All right. And there's they go out. It's usually the vet, always the vet, and you have usually a lead keeper and a couple other staff members that volunteer for this, and they go out and they go on a shooting range and they practice shooting. And if this happened during zoo hours, you would have had a keeper doing this. You would have had a keeper or a vet shooting the animal, most likely, if it didn't respond to a recall. So yeah, so this was going to happen either way, either getting shot from the deputy or getting shot from staff. Okay, so there's no way around it. Sedation doesn't happen like it does in the movies. All right. So here's the other thing. So now that we got that out of the way, we're going to appeal to the PETA people. And why is a tiger by itself? Tigers are solitary animals in the wild. They don't pair up. I mean, a lot of big cats that are males sometimes do pair up. They'll form coalitions. Usually you see that in cheetahs. Not so sure that you see that in tigers. Lions, of course, form prides. You will have some brothers, gang up and stuff. But tigers are solitary. Females and males are solitary. They have big ranges. I believe they can go up to like 400 miles, depending on the tiger species. All right, just different tiger species. The Malayan, again, is one of the smaller species. And critically endangered. Critically endangered means that chances are it's going to become endangered by the time, you know, one of us has grandchildren. It's only going to be in zoos. I believe there's less than 500 in the wild, which makes it critically endangered. All right, so that's why it's a solid, you know, you should only be seeing one tiger in an enclosure at a given time unless it is breeding. All right, so all that stuff you see in Tiger King and, you know, all the weird stuff that went on there with like all these tigers in one exhibit, no, that is not the way it should be done. Okay, that's very stressful, and this gets into the breeding of tigers also. So why do we have zoos? Why don't we have tigers in the wild? We do. We don't have a lot of them in the wild. Again, you have one tiger that needs, say we'll cut it in half. Say we have 200 square miles. Say we have 100 square miles, okay? That's still a lot of space for one animal. And really only you're going to have overlapping territories if there's you know, a male and a female goes into his territory for mating purposes. And that's got to be continuous habitat. You don't really want fragmented habitat. Fragmented habitat, usually it's more of a problem for species that are arboreal in the trees. If you have a patch of trees here, nothing here, and then another patch, that animal, which is normally in the trees, has to go to the ground where stuff like this wants to eat it. You know, for tigers, fragmented might be, there could be a plantation, you know, there could be a farm, there could be, you know, a mall or something that got put up, buildings or something like that, some kind of settling with people, all right, that could be part of the fragmented habitat that the tiger is now in, all right, so figure they have a fragmented habitat destruction. You always say habitat destruction when you kind of endangered animal. Okay, which means there's not as much prey. Okay, so you have that predator-prey relationship. There may not be enough prey in that area, so the animal has to go outside of its normal range, or it might have to visit a farmer, and pick off one of those animals, get shot in the process, you know. But the bigger issue that we see in the wild is tiger bones and tiger blood being used as medicine. Okay, so this is one of the bigger ones that we see as a problem. The same with rhino horn, the same with pangolin scales, and it's considered to be medicine. Okay, rhino horn we know is just hair and nail. Tiger bone is just bone. There's nothing special about it. And again, for the classes that I teach to my kids, my kids are always, well, why can't someone just tell them it doesn't work? And as I put up in my Facebook rant overnight, is that we see this right now with what is going on with COVID, okay, in the United States, and I'm sure in some of the other bigger countries, Great Britain, Australia, you know. There's a lot of kickback, a lot of fight back on the science, all right? We are seeing science, dirty science. We're seeing very dirty science right now because not everything is known. So a lot of it is going through the scientific method, if anyone remembers that. So there's a scientific method on how to do stuff, and this is what we are observing right now live with COVID. Okay, so there's a lot of different information going on. Wear the mask, don't wear the mask, wear 5 masks, don't wear 5 masks. Does it work? Does it not work? What percentage works? It's all new, and that's the way science works. The science is not absolute. Unless you're extinct, then it's kind of absolute, which is where these tigers are headed. But anyway, so, you know, so in a first world country like ours, we are seeing opposition to science. We are seeing people taking alternate medicines. They're taking dewormers, ivermectin. Ivermectin can kill you. People are taking that as an alternative. People are making up stuff to take. Oh, vitamin C, da 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 da, you know. So if we are seeing this in our country, and there's, again, and if you factor in religious beliefs with tiger bone and its medicinal properties, there's no way that you can just tell someone, you know what, tiger bone doesn't work. All right, so again, you have different organizations that try to educate people on, you know, tiger bone and how, you know, it's nothing, it doesn't work at all. But again, you're dealing with religion, you're dealing with generations and generations and generations of belief. And that doesn't break overnight, okay? And again, we see this with COVID right now, how there's an opposition and what's going on for an educated nation. So there's that. And then as far as tigers on the black market, there's a lot of money involved, okay? I know with rhino horn, you know, you have a poor person, they can make a year's salary, double a year's salary with just one rhino horn. So that's a pretty big deal if you're really, really poor. And it's the same with tiger bone also. So it's kind of hard to just say, you know what, why don't you just stay poor and leave the tiger alone? No. So it's very difficult when you're dealing with, you know, trying to educate people on, you know, that tiger bone is not, you know, a magic healing remedy. And the other thing is the illegal pet trade, right? We see that with primates, we see that with cheetahs, we see that with, you know, with tigers as well. People want tigers as a pet. People want hyenas as a pet. Don't do it. Don't do it. So we do see that. So that covers what's going on in Asia. Tigers are from Asia usually. As far as why they're endangered, okay, and why we need zoos. So this is where zoos come in. This is where AZA accredited zoos come in. ZAA, I'm not totally familiar. They've gotten better with what they're doing, which is good. ZAA is usually for zoos that are privately owned. Okay, you cannot be a privately owned facility and be AZA. Because you have to be open to the public, and there's some other rules and stuff that go on with AZA facilities. So like the bigger zoos, you know, your Bronx Zoo, Philly Zoo, San Diego, Cincinnati, Columbus, Audubon, Fort Worth, Dallas, those are all AZA zoos. So they're you know, well known and stuff. Naples is also AZA accredited, okay, which means they are governed by certain rules, okay. And when I say rules, that means everything. That goes down to the structure of the keepers. You have keeper 1, keeper 2, keeper 3, supervisor, etc. You have manuals on, my scorpion's thirsty, on what to feed the animals, how to feed the animals, how to hand raise them if that came to be. Protocols on what the cage should look like, how deep, how high, the kickback. It's usually, I think, what is it, 14 feet with a 2-foot kickback, and it's got to be, I think, 2 foot beneath the ground or whatever. So there's all protocols on this stuff, and this is what AZA dictates. Everything for pretty much every single animal, there's a manual, at least for that order, written or in the process of being written. So it's pretty heavy duty stuff. So SSPs, okay, SSPs are, AZA loves to use acronyms. SSPs are species survival plans. So if you're at a zoo, an AZA accredited zoo, you will recognize an SSP animal by the rhino symbol. There's usually 2 rhinos. And I don't think I have an example here to show you. I might, but that is your indicator of, I might have a tiger thing here of an SSP animal. So what that means, if you are an SSP animal, that usually means that you're endangered, okay? And through computer work and a lot of genetics, a lot of figuring out genealogies, where this animal came from, they are able, the people in the SSP group are able to figure out what pairs make the best matches for the best genetics. So you want to maintain a genetically diverse population in captivity. So basically zoos are there in case we can ever release the animal into the wild, which does happen. There's oryx, the horned animals. They have been released. We've released red wolves into the wild. So it does happen sometimes, okay, that these animals are re-released. So that's always the hope. So we try to maintain a genetically diverse population within captivity. We try to maintain a population that can maintain itself in captivity, so we don't have to take animals out of the wild, which sometimes does happen. Sometimes we need to shake things up. Sometimes we need the diversity. With the northern white rhino, there's what, 2 girls left. What are you going to do? So critically endangered, again, that pretty much means you're going extinct. Again, there's not a lot of individuals left in the wild. I do not know how many are left in zoos. Probably not many. And the Malayan one was one of the critically endangered ones. So that's what SSPs are for. That is why we have these animals in zoos. So basically, it's usually the male that gets shipped off. So this cat at Naples would have been shipped off to another zoo if he was a genetically viable animal, to be bred with another female, to be part of the SSP. So we lost this animal if he was in the SSP. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're not genetically viable. They have issues that they can't breed. So that, I do not have that answer. I do not know what his value was to the SSP. And this also goes to when you're watching Tiger King, how you have all these weirdly bred animals. So you have your ligers, your tigons, I think they are. So you have the lions bred with tigers and tigers bred with lions. And then you have mixed species. So you might have an armor tiger, a mere tiger, whatever, however you want to pronounce it, bred with another type of species of tiger. So that animal is not genetically viable for anything. Okay? And then again, you have all these space requirements for these animals. So it's pretty much a waste, and all these people want to do is have their picture taken with the tiger. So you have all these cubs that are genetically not viable animals. White tigers, it's just a genetic mutation, and it will happen in the wild. If you remember your Punnett squares, peanut squares, however you want to pronounce it, usually it's a bunch of recessive genes, okay? And usually it's, one parent has the little r, the other parent has the little r, and that's how you get the 1/4, that little box in the lower right-hand corner, little r, which means you get both recessive, you get both little r's, and that animal displays the recessive genes. So what happens to keep getting that white tiger? You keep breeding that white tiger with another white tiger, and you keep breeding down all these recessive genes. So you have these tigers that are just messed up genetically, when all it was a coat mutation. And then you're breeding in all these genetic deformities in with it. So that is why you don't like white tigers. We don't like white tigers because there's no purpose. And these animals just take up space. It's sad to say, but, we need room for genetically viable animals. And these animals that are just bred for entertainment. Not saying zoos don't do this. We do exploit animals. Of course we do. We need to. We need to teach people about these animals, so there's a certain level of exploitation that goes with it. As being a keeper for, a few years, you kind of I'm not going to say you get numb to it, but you kind of understand why it needs to be done. You know, when you first become a keeper, you're on this crusade that you're going to save everything, and that's not how it works. Some people do. Some people actually do a lot of good work in zoos and actually get on these teams that actually do save stuff, and it's really cool. But the majority of us just feed and clean up poop, and we try to educate the public on, you know, our animal. But yeah, you know, there's a certain level of exploitation. These are called ambassador animals, okay? These are the animals that you see, you know, Jack Hanna with, or Jeff Corwin with. Yeah, if you didn't see that animal, you would not care about it. So yes, we need to have a certain level of exploitation. But for these non-accredited places that just breed these animals just to breed them, just to show them, to make money, where there's no value in that animal, just to take up space when other animals can be using that space, you know, that's just not how it's done. And sometimes you do see that in ZA type places. Sometimes you do see it in AZA places also. It does happen. You have surplus animals. They're called surplus animals. And they're not, you know, they're not SSP animals. They're just animals to maintain the captive population, basically. And sometimes they'll get shipped off to another facility, a bigger facility that can house those animals if, you know, the smaller zoos don't have the space. So you see that with the big three, Fossil Rim in Texas, White Oaks, and the other one that I always forget, the Wilds. You know, bigger space, whatever. So that goes with the breeding. That is why we have to have zoos, if that makes sense. I'm trying to think if there were any other things that I needed to discuss as far as this whole situation. So we went over about the security, you know, and this is with any zoo. Any zoo you have maintenance staff, you have cleaning staff, you have, you know, your janitors and stuff, you have the cafeteria staff, you have security, you have your keepers, you have your education staff, you have HR. You have so many different types of staff members working at a facility. Again, these people sounded like they were contracted out overnight to maintain the facility, to clean the bathrooms, to clean the gift shop, to clean non-animal areas. So whose fault is it? It's the guy's fault. Anytime an animal gets shot or anytime someone gets attacked, it's always the person's fault. Even if it's a keeper, it's always your fault. Unless the animal had like rabies, it's always the person's fault. Okay, but as far as what could have been done to prevent it, it sounds like the guy got into, you know, he had to really want this to make it happen, is what it sounded like. Because normally you're going to put that animal in the secondary overnight. It's not going to be on exhibit. So I think he somehow had gained access to a back area, called the animal over, and again, the inside areas usually have more different types of access points because it's off exhibit. Again, it's so that keeper can work with the animal, to stick a paw in, to stick a tail through, to do different type of vet procedures. I'm not familiar with this place. I'm just taking a guess. But there are many locks, many locks for hot animals, red animals, and stuff. And usually you have a two-person system. But again, it sounded like he got pulled in somehow. So again, I'm thinking he, again, had access to a secondary area, and which was big enough that he either slipped under or slipped through it somehow. It's the guy's fault. And so again, what are you going to have to do? Have security walk these people everywhere? You're going to have, and this could happen with anyone. This can happen with any type of staff. So you kind of have to have common sense. And that doesn't always happen. You know, it's one of those things. Sedation is not a viable option. Again, sedation takes minutes. And that's even if it's a successful jab or a successful shot. And again, usually the tiger knows it's coming and it's going to freak out and run off. This is already an excited tiger. people are probably yelling, you know, panicking and stuff. So the deputy, this is what he was supposed to do. This is correct. Again, if if this was during regular hours, the SHOT team, if Naples Zoo had one, which I'm sure they did, it would have been a keeper shooting the animal, it would have been the vet shooting the animal. So either way, this is what the outcome would have been. And again, I hope I explained why we need to have tigers in zoos, the purpose for SSPs, or species survival plans, why the animal is solitary, and, you know, don't let this discourage visiting zoos. Just, you know, look for that AZA sign and look for that little SSP sign, and know that, you know, there is some good in zoos. We try to do as much as we can for conservation. We try to do as much as we can for education. If that animal wasn't in the zoo, you wouldn't know about it. Okay, so there is some value. If you don't care about it, you can't protect it. And this is what keepers like myself try to do. We try to educate people on these animals the best that we can with what we have. We don't always enjoy working at zoos. There are a lot of limitations that we do have, and usually it's the form of this. And this comes from people visiting zoos. Normally all the money comes from what we make at the front gate. Some of it comes from donations, some of it comes from exploitation. That is why you might have Chester cheetah exhibit, or you might have, you know, the Exxon you know, raptor row or something like that. You know, I used to be against all that, but if they're gonna give my zoo the money to build a better enclosure, you can call it whatever you want. My animal's getting a better enclosure. If you want to put Exxon in front of it, you want to put BP in front of it, go right ahead. I don't care. Give my animal a better exhibit. So get over it. And all that Tiger King stuff. Yeah, that's, you know, that's not how it should be. That's not how it should be done. That Doc Antle stuff. No. No, that's not legit type of stuff. So I hope I cleared up and answered some stuff. If you have questions, put them in the chat or the comment section, and I'll try to get back to them. So hopefully I covered, you know, everything that anyone could possibly want to know about this situation in general. I don't know all the specifics, but hopefully this answered some questions that I've gotten in the past about escapes and, you know, animals getting shot and stuff. So again, hopefully this answers some stuff, and don't be afraid to visit the zoos. They need help right now. They need the money. The money goes to help the animals. All right. Thank you. Bye.